Translate.
Okay, I'm recording now.
Nosotros vemos números en todos lados, ¿no? Vemos números en nuestras identificaciones, en el dinero, en el reloj, en el peso, en la ropa, en la velocidad, ¿no? En la talla de los zapatos, pero que no todos estos números representan lo mismo.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes it represents time, right? We in our clock we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 up to 12. But one means that it might be one in the morning, one in the afternoon, right? Or we see it on the money and it says like 10, 5, 1, and that means a quantity that it's like collection of $10 means like collection of 10 single dollars, right? Or it could be like $5. And sometimes a phone number, when it's not related to quantity, it's more it represents a code for you to, if I want to call you, you're not the 700 and whatever person who has the next phone number, but it's just a combination of numbers that represents something like your bank account. So the way that we use numbers, it depending on the context that they're being used, they mean different things, right?
Entonces, básicamente los números tienen diferentes aplicaciones. Por ejemplo, el tiempo es la 1 de la mañana o la 1 de la tarde, ¿no? El dinero pues tiene distintas cantidades, ¿no? $10, 10 centavos. El número telefónico, pues bueno, es un código que tienes que marcar, ¿no? Entonces, que básicamente los números tienen un significado dependiendo su contexto. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So sometimes, and that's the reason that counting sometimes only makes sense when that numbers are used in a matter that could be counted. Like I cannot count like a phone number, right? But I can count money. I can count time, like it's been 4 hours, but I cannot count my clothing size. It doesn't mean anything. It's a number, like whatever size you are, but it's not to be counted necessarily. So the counting only works in certain contexts that numbers are used, and it doesn't work in every single context when numbers are included.
O sea que el contexto de contar solamente se puede utilizar en ciertas aplicaciones, ¿no? Por ejemplo, tú no puedes contar, habla de que sí puedes contar, por ejemplo, el dinero, ¿no? Pero no puedes contar, pues el tiempo, ¿no? El tiempo dices la hora, es para saber la hora. Exacto. La ropa, en realidad, pues la talla de la ropa, no. O sea, hay cosas que sí se cuentan y hay cosas que no y que también tiene que ver con el contexto, ¿no? Yes.
Okay. Um, so as we understood already, numbers are complex. They mean a lot of things, and counting is the same way too. There are different rules related to counting that we need to understand as a teacher for and help our students understand how counting is one way. It's a tool that we can use to make sense of numbers in complex ways. So next we're gonna look at the counting rules. What are some rules related to counting that is important that students learn? So we're gonna start with yeah, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead, because o sea, que va a empezar a explicarnos por qué es importante que los niños aprendan a contar. Yes, please.
Yeah, so the first rule of counting is stable order principle. So in this principle, what it means is like numbers are ordered in a stable order. That doesn't change. Whether you're counting in Spanish, whether you're counting in English, after one always comes two. After two, always three. But in Spanish, you say something different, but what you mean is like two, three, right? Like you don't say any other number. It's just like it's something that we all human beings who are using number system agreed on. This is the order of numbers. And that's what's called stable order. And that's like one of the first things that we want to build on children as we're teaching them counting skills, that order of the numbers don't change. And you cannot say after one, four. You need to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's stable and repeatable, regardless of what language that you're speaking. It's the same.
sea, que no importa la lengua que los niños hablen en todo el mundo, el orden siempre va a ser el mismo, va a ser estable, nunca va a cambiar, que siempre va a ser un orden, ¿no? Después del uno sigue el 2, después del 2 sigue el 3, sigue el 4 y el 5, y que no importa el idioma y en donde nos encontremos, pues siempre va a seguirlo. Yes, please.
Mhm. So the skills that children are developing as they're counting, learning about the stable order could be once they learn the stable order, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, more complex way of like helping you understand whether the children know is you can give them a number. Can you count up from 5? And if when you ask that the child, if they go back to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, rather than 5, 6, 7, it gives you an idea that they understand there's a stable order, but they memorized it. They're not really understanding the order of the numbers, what automatically comes after 5, but they need to go back to that rhythm of like counting from the beginning to find out what comes after 5. So when you know your children, students can't like know the order of numbers, test their knowledge like this. If you know that they can count up to 10, tell them, can you count after what comes after 5? And if they say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then that means that they are understanding there's a stable order, but they don't have the fluency between the numbers from 1 to 10 to figure out what comes after 5 immediately because they need to go back to the routine of like counting and hear it, the order. So the understanding order usually starts like that. They understand and then they need to go back. They're not immediately able to count on, but the more they have experiences, then they will able to count on from a specific number or count down from a given number.
I'm going to translate to Candy and I'm going to ask you something, please.
Mm-hmm.
Es que habla de que el orden, básicamente los niños tienen que comprender el orden de los números, o sea, del 1 al 10, por ejemplo, pero que también si de pronto te dicen del 5 al 10, que es importante que sepan que va antes del 5, ¿no? El 1, 2, 3 y 4. Pero lo que le quiero preguntar es que si esto es por memoria o si lo deben de ya de comprender. So my question is, if this is something that they need to do just for memory or if they need to understand the reason why it's a sequence. So that's my
Yeah,
question.
so initially it's a memory, then once they have the fluency, they need to they need to understand because 5 is smaller than 6. So it's before 6 is 5, after 6 is 7, because 7 is bigger than 6, and so the order of the numbers.
Okay, so this
Yeah.
ability means understanding, not just memorizing.
Initially, it starts with the memorization. They need to like memorize the order of the numbers because it's abstract, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just abstract. We just said that this is like 1 after like 2. So initially they memorize it, but the more they practice the stable order, they need to build the fluency, which comes with the understanding of the what numbers are and how counting help us understand where number is in relation to other numbers.
Perfect. So let me tell her. Yo lo que le pregunto es si esto tiene que ser por memorización o que lo comprendan. Entonces, es de que inicialmente sí lo memorizan, pero que ya después lo tienen que comprender, ¿me explico? O sea, que no nada más es 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, sino que comprendan que el 6 es mayor que el 5, que el 2 es menor que el 4, y así. Thank you.
Mhm. So that's the stable order. And some children, as they're learning the stable order, like the order of numbers, the counting, the rule, sometimes as they're learning, they just know the words, but they might not able to recite the order. And then you might see, especially with younger kids who are being introduced in pre-K kindergarten, they might count like 1, 2, 5, 6, 9, 11. They know they need to say a number, but they're skipping numbers in between. And that gives you an idea that they know that there needs to be an order. Like I just need to keep saying numbers, but the understanding is missing, that they don't understand the relationship between numbers as they are being recited in order.
Ok. Entonces, aquí lo que yo estoy diciendo es que muchas veces nada más nos están recitando que, como una rutina, que todavía no comprenden el significado de los números. Ok, thank you.
Mhm. So some of the strategies that we can use as teachers in the classroom is like keep reciting the number order in various ways throughout the day. Even like maybe when you are like cleaning up, count out loud like one. Like when I say 10, it will be done. So you count like 1, 2, 3. So you keep reciting numbers as a teacher as they're completing certain tasks and it needs to be timed. Or it could be even built into your morning meeting that you're doing like loud um, counting as a group.
Que básicamente nos recomiendan que tengamos muchas rutinas durante el día, sobre todo con los niños pequeños, en donde ellos se vayan familiarizando con el contenido del número del 1 al 10. Por ejemplo, cuando vayan a limpiar sus actividades, ¿no? A ver, tenemos 10 segundos para limpiar nuestra mesa. O en la mañana cuando hagas el tiempo del círculo, porque en preescolar así se hace, que en la mañana se reúnen, así como lo hacemos y hablar de, o sea, mencionar el concepto de 10, ¿no? A ver, ¿cuántos somos hoy? Pues somos 4, somos 10, o sea, utilizar distintos ejemplos. Thank you.
Mhm. And you can even include some games into your morning routine or like games as you're transitioning from one activity to another where they're doing counting and then a certain number, maybe the kids are standing up holding hands. Maybe you have 5 kids holding hands. Um, and then they start counting, and every time that you say 5, someone needs to sit down, and then they restart from 1. So maybe you say 1, and I say 1, and you say 2, and Candy say 3, and I say 4, and you say 5, Maite, and you sit down. And now Candy and I keep counting up to 5. Whoever hits 5, they need to sit down. So there's one winner at the end. So the kids are practicing counting in a fun way without like, oh, it's another thing that we need to do, but it's like exciting, but they are trying to figure out who's going to win the game or so on and so forth. So you can do that with 5, you can do it up to 10, you can do it up to 20, depending on how you want to do it.
Que básicamente puedes hacer juegos, que probablemente igual ya los has hecho, o sea, en los que le das un número a cada niño para hacer un número a cada niño, y que entonces tú llamas a los 2, o llamas a los 5, o llamas a los 8, o sea, que entonces obviamente ellos van identificando aún más los números, ¿no? Yes.
Mhm. So the next principle of counting is one-to-one correspondence. And what this means is like every time you count, say a number, it's attached to an item that represents that number in the order. So when you're counting in this image, the red one is the first one. So you say 1. And when you point the orange one, you say 2. And when you point the yellow one, you say 3. So each thing that you're pointing represents a number in the collection. And then that's what one-to-one correspondence. Only one number can be attached to one item as you're counting a collection of items. And that's a principle that also requires for children to have that eye-hand coordination developed where they are pointing. So this is an area that oftentimes pre-K kids struggle with due to their like developing eye-hand coordination. And it's less likely for kindergarten and up to struggle with this. So if you're working with pre-K kids, that's something that they need a lot of experience around, that they're doing that pointing and counting to build that one-to-one correspondence understanding and be able to follow that order.
Thank you. Entonces, este concepto se llama correspondencia, principio de 1 a 1 y a qué le corresponde. O sea, a qué corresponde cada número. Entonces, básicamente dice que cuando tú estás contando algo, que los niños con su dedo apunten y vayan asociando ese número a ese concepto. 1, el rojo. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, y que cada número representa una cosa, pero que utilicen su mano para contar, señales. Ajá, y que este es un concepto que se trabaja al principio de preescolar y que requiere coordinación de ojo-mano, Entonces, muchas veces a algunos niños les cuesta trabajo esta habilidad, entonces requieren experiencia. Entonces, es algo que deben de ir practicando. Thank you.
Welcome. And one of the common struggles that children have as they're building that one-to-one correspondence, they know that they need to point something, but they end up pointing at the same thing and saying a different number. And it looks like this. They point at red block and say 1, and they point the red block again, say 2. And then they move on to the yellow one and say 3. So even though they are following the counting order, in order to build the one-to-one correspondence, it's important to remind that child, like, oh, remember, like one number per block. We cannot count the same block again. So let's start again, like 1, 2, and help the child. And you can even guide their hand to point one block at a time and a different block each time that you're saying a number, rather than pointing the same thing again.
Que básicamente practiquen en distintos objetos en lugar de practicar siempre en el mismo, ¿no? O sea, que practiquen ahora, pues, no sé, vamos a ver las bolitas, ¿no? Y 1, 2, 3, 4, y que si les cuesta trabajo, les puedes ayudar con su manita, que ellos lo toquen, porque muchas veces no pueden apuntar fácilmente, ¿no? Pero ir buscando y que lo vayan asociando con distintos objetos. Yes, thank you.
This is kind of what we just talked about. Like, it's important to help the children build that fluency. We model the correct counting again and again, and we can use those like holding their hands and pointed, slowing them down, and reciting and touching each item as they're counting is a great strategy to help kids. And eventually, they built this understanding that I can only point one at a time.
So es ir desarrollando, ir desarrollando esta habilidad correctamente y que solamente pueden apuntar a uno a la vez. Sorry, Miguel. Yes, go ahead.
No worries. So we talked about the stable order principle, and then we talked about one-to-one correspondence. Next is the cardinality principle. So the cardinality principle means is the last number that you say, and that when you're counting a collection of things, represent the overall total of the items in that collection. So when I count this group of apples, I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 apples. So the last number represents the overall quantity number of the the apples. So one of the common common mistake that children make, that they don't have the understanding of cardinality, when you ask them, so how many apples do I have? If they're not able to say 5, but they say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you ask, how many apples? And they say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they know that they need to count, and they know when to stop counting, but they don't understand that the last number that they said, it represents the overall quantity. So then when you have that kind of struggles, it's important to say, yes, you have 5 apples. Like, remember, the last number means that the overall quantity. So how many apples do I have? And they will eventually learn 5 apples rather than keep counting again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When they keep counting from the beginning, every time you ask how many, that means that cardinality is not there yet. And they need more experiences where you keep asking like how many, and then they eventually understand the last number represents the overall quantity.
Ok. Entonces, el principio de la cardinalidad dice que básicamente es cuando los niños están contando y que el último nombre que dicen, el número que dicen, es el que representa el total de todos los objetos, ¿no? Por ejemplo, la cardinalidad es cuando ya ellos comprenden el total y el último número. O sea, en este caso, 1, 2, 3, 4. El total son 5. Pero que si los niños se siguen, o sea, que uno de los comunes errores es que si los niños continúan contando, ajá, en lugar de parar, no tienen todavía como el concepto de la cardinalidad, ¿sí me explico? O sea, que tienen que comprender que hay un total, ¿sí? Ok. Yes, thank you.
Mhm. Okay, talked about that. So the another principle, the fourth principle related to counting is order irrelevance principle, and which means basically you can count the collection in whatever order you want to count them. And the order, if you change the order of the items that you're counting, doesn't change the overall total. Meaning that you have two collections of cars in here. You can start counting it with the blues, like one, two, three, and then go to the green trees like 3, 4, and then go to the red car, say 5, and go to this yellow person and say 6. So there are 6 toys on the table. Or you can count it, start with the blue car and then go count the tree and the person and the red car and then this. So whichever order that you follow in terms of what items you're counting doesn't change the overall quantity. So that's the order irrelevance. The order of items that you're counting has nothing to do with the order of numbers. So the total is always the same, regardless of which one you count first or which one you count last.
Okay. El cuarto principio se llama orden irrelevante. ¿No quieres un cuadernito? Bueno, ok, y dice que básicamente tú puedes contar de la forma que tú quieras, o sea, puedes empezar a contar los verdes o irte a los rojos, porque el total siempre vas a llegar al mismo total, ¿sí? Que en realidad no importa, el orden es irrelevante, pero el total siempre va a ser el mismo.
Mhm.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome. Sometimes kids think that, oh, I need to count always from right to left, left to right. Like they can count all over the place. It's as long as they can keep track of which ones they counted, which ones they didn't count it. The order of how they're counting doesn't matter. And sometimes it's good to like keep practicing that by giving them different items to count. And so they have multiple experiences where they're counting different types of materials rather than just keep counting the same things again and again. It helps them build this. The last principle is the abstraction principle. Yeah, go ahead.
Secuencia please. Que, o sea, básicamente se les tiene que proporcionar a los niños la oportunidad de que cuenten distintas cosas, que porque muchos niños tienden a contar de derecha a izquierda, casi siempre, o izquierda a derecha, perdón, de izquierda a derecha. Entonces, que no importa que hay que facilitarles distintos materiales, distintas oportunidades de conteo para que no sea solamente de una forma. Y este es el último principio. Sorry, Billy, please.
No, yes, yeah. So the last principle is like the easiest one is abstraction principle, meaning that for things to be counted, they don't have to be physical materials. Like your ideas can be counted, or your thoughts could be counted, your emotions, like things that are not visible or non-physical things can also be counted. That's the abstraction principle.
Okay. Que este es el más fácil, el principio abstracto, que básicamente se puede contar todo, los sentimientos, que no todo tiene que ser físico. Se puede contar todo en esta vida. Yes.
Mhm. So some strategies that we can use as we're helping children understand counting rules and build that fluency between counting from smaller numbers to higher numbers are the first one is count all. So we provide experiences to students where we ask them, oh, how many cookies do you have? Can you help me figure this out? Can you count them for me? Can you count them all? So count all is one strategy that helps children practice counting skills where we give them collection of items and ask them how many, and they count.
Que esta es una de las habilidades. A ver, todas estas van a ser estrategias para contar. La primera se llama cuenta todo, que entonces básicamente se cuenta todo, ¿no? A ver cuántas galletas tienes, ¿no? Vamos a practicar. Todos los objetos se van a contar. Es el lenguaje que se va a ir desarrollando. ¿Ok? Se llama cuenta todo. Es el primer principio de las estrategias. Yes, thanks.
Yeah, and then once when you have you're confident that children are understanding counting, stable order, and they're able to count a collection, give them tasks like count on, where you're giving them a number and ask them, can you count from 4 and go up? And then can you count on to like 7? So if they build that counting principle, like order principle, they will, like when I say 4, they will be like 4, 5, 6, 7. So when they have enough experience with counting all small sets, again, then challenge them a little bit, give them a specific number. And if you have 4 cookies, how many more would you have if you have like in order to have like 7, so they can count on like 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, 5, 6, 7. I will have 3 more cookies. So they do this count on, and because they need to keep that in mind and then figure out what comes after 4. So that makes it more challenging rather than always start from 1 to figure out counting all. Count on in that sense is more complex. Yeah.
Ok. Esta otra habilidad se llama, bueno, I'm trying to find a word to translate. Como contar a partir de un cierto número. O sea, por ejemplo, si tú tienes 4 y quieres X situación, ¿no? Si tú tienes 4 manzanas, ¿cuántas necesitas para llegar a 7? O sea, empezar a promover este tipo exactamente, de agregar, ¿no? De agregar o de ir avanzando, ¿no? Sí, yes, Vilge, thanks.
Once you build that a little bit, and then you can move on to skip counting with the older kids. I wouldn't do skip counting with pre-K kids, like focus on counting all. With pre-K kids, you can introduce kindergarten and up count on. And then skip counting is again kindergarten and up. You can do skip counting by 5 or by 10 to build that fluency, meaning that instead of always counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, up to 30, try to count up to 30 by 5, like 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, or counting by 2s, like 2, 4, 6, 8. So you can build that, make it more challenging for older kids. Even first grade, like skip counting is really more appropriate if you do it by like 2s, will be more like first grade and up.
What
Kindergarten will be more 10. Yeah.
What do you consider kindergarten? How old are they for you?
So kindergarten is 5 and up. 6, 7, like 7 is more first grade. 8 and up is more like second grade.
Okay. First grade, you say 6 or what?
Like 6, 7 is
Okay.
first grade, and 7, 8, like because they can be at the same age too, like 7.5, 8 is more second grade.
Okay, thank you, Billy. Let me just translate, please. Entonces dice que la siguiente es saltar al contar. Esta es otra habilidad. O sea, pero que esta no te recomienda, no nos recomienda que lo hagamos con los niños menores de 5 años. El kindergarten es como de niños de 5 años, niños de kinder. Preescolares antes de 5. Entonces, ella nos sugiere que practiquen a partir de kinder y también en primero de primaria a contar 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, así, o de 2 en 2. Ajá, pero en niños menores no. En niños menores solamente son las habilidades anteriores que nos acaba de decir. Thank you.
I'm gonna stop sharing the screen real quick because the skips counting is really, really important when it comes to understanding addition and multiplication and even division. Because when you think about skip counting is like skip counting up to 10 by 2s looks like this, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So we set five numbers like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. What this means is 2 times 5 is 10. But when they have experiences of skip counting and understanding how many times, how many skips that they made in the counting, it by default helps them build that foundational understanding related to multiplication because we made 5 jumps, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That which means is in 10, there are 5 2s, and 2 times 5 makes 10. So that's the benefit of skip counting as they're learning. So you help them understand eventually when you're teaching them multiplication in second grade that numbers repeats, small numbers repeats in larger numbers. And sometimes it's easy to figure out how many times they repeat. And we use multiplication to figure that out.
It's so much sense. I wish I had
I
that.
know, right? Yeah.
Pleasure. Básicamente, esta es la base de la multiplicación.
El
Ahí te va
conteo.
porque el conteo es
De las,
porque.
bueno, no sé.
Sí, dime, dime.
Son sumas repetidas. Solo con
A ver, dime.
2 más 2 más 2. ¿Cuántas veces estás sumando 2? A menos si los
Sí, 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 sí.
No sé si
Sí, sí, sí.
estamos bien.
O sea,
Son las sumas repetidas, es lo que le dije.
entonces, ¿cuántas veces sumas que perdón?
2. Por ejemplo, si sumamos 2 más 2, ¿cuántas veces sumamos 2? Pues 2. 2 por 2.
Exacto, exacto. Entonces, básicamente, exacto, que cuántas veces tienes que saltar de ese para llegar a 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, pues 5 veces, ¿no? ¿Y cuántas veces tienes que saltar para llegar a, no sé, a 4? Pues 2 veces, 2 por 2, ¿no? ¿Cuántas veces tienes que llegar al 6? Pues 3 veces, 2, 2, 2. Y que básicamente esta es la habilidad que se necesita practicar para la multiplicación. Está buenísima. O sea que le estás haciendo bien. Así le estás haciendo. Ok, entonces ya te lo...
Sumas repetidas.
Sumas.
Así le dije, sumas repetidas.
Entonces, esa va a ser el inicio de la... Okay. How did you call this ability? Skip
Skip
number?
counting. Skip counting.
Skip counting. Se llama, salto de conteo, o sea, como saltar al contar. Yeah, she was giving me, Candy was giving me examples. She was telling me that that's how she started to teach multiplication. She was to do that with shorter numbers.
Smaller numbers, right? Yeah.
Smaller, sorry, smaller.
No worries. Yeah, and the division is the same way too. When we divide a larger number, when we, like, for example, when you divide 10 by 2, what you're actually doing is trying to figure out how many 2's exist in 10. So, like, there are 5 2's in 10. So division is also trying to understand what number that you're dividing, how many times it exists in the larger number. So the skip counting is also helping them both understand addition, like multiplication, and even division.
Que la división también se hace así, que cuando nosotros dividimos 10 entre 2, es cuántas veces los 2 pueden existir en el 10. Entonces también esta habilidad nos ayuda. ¿Cuántas veces cabe? Pues 5, o sea que es una maravilla. Sí, sí. Beautiful.
Okay. So the making 10 is another one that you can make it even more complicated, more like advanced counting, meaning that like when you ask children, like, oh, if you start counting from 7, how many numbers you need to count to get to 10? If you start at 5, how many numbers do you need to count in order to get to 10? So it helps them, like, make 10 is also another strategy that you can always focus on. Like, start from 5, stop at 10. How many numbers? Like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Part of the reason that we focus on make 10 is like 10 frame that we talked about, because when they are sorting, composing numbers, if we keep using 10 frame to help them see the numbers, And then making 10 as their counting will also help them utilize that knowledge that they already developed as they're learning the numbers with 10 frame to apply it to their counting. And they can do that mental count, like count from 5. And they know, oh, I know that in 10 there are 2 5s. So it has to be 5 more numbers that I need to count to get to 10. So do you see how the connections, what you're teaching as you're teaching numbers at the beginning when you're using 5 frame, 10 frame, helps them understand that could be used as a strategy, help them understand counting rules and be able to do mental counting.
Okay, I'm sorry, I got a little bit distracted. I'm gonna try to see if I understood. So you are
Yeah.
saying that how many numbers? You need to get 10, and basically using the 10 frame is also the right road to, I'm sorry, I just got a
Yeah,
little bit.
remember when we were talking about number sense, I said that 10 frame is a great tool for pre-K start with a 5 frame and then 10 frame where we're like rolling a die and then they need to fill out the 10 frame and then they figure out, oh, like I have 6 and I have 4 empty spots. 6 and 4 makes 10. So once they have that experience with the 10 frame as they're learning numbers and as we're teaching the counting skills, that could be used as a strategy to help them do this time mental counting where there's no 10
Okay.
frame, but they know, oh, if you start from counting from 5, like if you have 5 of something, how many more do you need to get to 10? And they can do 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 5. So they don't have like materials necessarily because they built that fluency with the 10 frame as they're learning about numbers. And when they do mental counting, they can use that as a framework that making 10, but this time with just counting.
Ok, thank you, Miguel. Es que básicamente el cuadrito de 10, el marco de 10, el hacer 10, lo que practicamos la vez pasada, les dice, una vez que ya ellos han experimentado eso, les va a ayudar con el cálculo mental. O sea, y tantas veces que lo han calculado visualmente, lo van a poder experimentar en su mente, pues. Thank you, Vilge. I'm just going to close very quickly here because it's a little bit bright. 1 second, please.
Yeah, no worries.
A mí también. Thank you, Vilge.
Yeah, no worries. Do you want to watch a video next? Or would that
Yes,
be too hard to translate?
No problem. You know, just play the video and I'll translate at the end. That's wonderful. Que te lo
Okay.
traduzco. ¿Me avisas? Sí. Please.
Okay, share my screen.
All right, we've got another collection for you, Lorelai. What do you see in here? Can you tell us how many pennies there are in this collection?
I think I'm gonna have to use another technique.
What other technique are you thinking about?
Split them into 4s. Actually 5s. And then leave the 1 right there. So I know 5. And 5, that's 10. 5 and 5. 10. All this together. That's 20. 5 and 5, 10. 20. Okay, so right now we're at 40. And then about 41 pennies.
How many pennies are there?
41 all
Really?
together.
Can you tell me a little, can you remind me how you figured that out? You did some really neat putting numbers together. Remind me again, how did you get the 41?
Like, I'm not gonna do all of them because, like, it kind of gets boring if you repeat it all over again.
But I would love to see it again.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it anyway.
Thanks.
Not because the teachers want to, because I want to also.
Exactly, because you want to be a math detective. You get to decide.
Okay, that's all right. And that's 5. Oh, there we go. That's all. Missing penny. So I put them in groups of 5. So like we could. So I know 5 plus 5 is 10. Oh. And then I would do 5 plus 5 is 10 again. Add them together, 20. 5 plus 5 is 10. And then, it's 31 pennies.
How'd you get 31 pennies?
I noticed that I accidentally, discounted, probably because I was counting a little too fast. So I didn't know it was 30 pennies. So probably now I knew that now it's 30. It's 31.
So how many pennies are there?
31.
Awesome.
Okay. So
La primera vez.
so
So
did you
beautiful.
yeah. So you notice how she initially counted by 5 and then create like groups of 5. And then she used her
Yes.
knowledge of like, oh, I know 5 makes 10. And that's what I mean by the make it 10 strategy, that she's utilizing that, and it makes it like more manageable. And then she then counts the groups of 10 and put them together. I know 10 makes 20, and 20 plus 10 makes 30. And so they're not necessarily doing quote unquote addition, but by doing mental counting, they're actually doing addition, if that makes sense. Because they've been doing a lot of skip counting by 5, by 10, without being like addition problem. She's actually doing mental addition by doing skip counting. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Let me translate here. Que básicamente ya, pues hizo el conteo de 10. O sea que ya había practicado bastante las agrupaciones de 10 y que después puso de 5 en 5, o sea, lo que vimos, pues lo entendimos.
Sí.
Yeah, we like it.
Okay, good. Let me go back to the PowerPoint.
No, pero también aquí le ayudó a la niña.
She has to say, she wants to share something.
Le ayudó a la niña a agrupar, pero también como retroalimentar a la maestra. La palabra sí que salía juntas. Pero me escuchó ella 41, o sea, entonces, ¿qué proceso llevaste? En que ella lo empezó a agrupar, se dio cuenta de que no era 41. Como que, pues, me equivoqué. En el conteo.
Exactamente.
Retomar el conteo.
We're not sure, but we heard first she count 41 and then 31. Is that correct? Or
Correct.
what Candy's saying is that the fact that the teacher asked her, how did she come up with that answer? It really helped the girl to figure out again and to think about the process. So it was helpful not just to do it, but also to share how she came up with that process. right?
Yeah, and that's a great point because it's really important when we ask questions to kids, we're asking in a way to it's not focusing on the answer itself. It's more about how did you find out? What did you think? Can you show me your thinking? So asking these kind of questions builds that flexible thinking around math, that math can be something that I can make sense of, something that I can explain. It's not something that I need to like memorize. In this case, the child like, okay, I'm gonna try again and show, oh, I also find out where I made the mistake. She said like, oh, I went too fast. I added too fast and I got confused, but I got it right this time. Yeah.
Es muy importante lo que acabas de mencionar porque precisamente lo que se quiere buscar es que los niños no se aprendan que te compartan el proceso de cómo llegaron a la solución. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So in that link, there are other videos as well, and I think there are some Spanish ones actually too. So take a look at them in your own time too. This link, I scroll down to this girl's video, but there are other videos that talks about counting as well. So feel free to go to them if you want to look at more.
Thank you so much, Vilge. Thank you. Where can you find them? After once you send us the email, right?
Yes, so the link is in the presentation. You can just copy and paste it to a browser and it will come up. Mhm.
Thank you, Vilge.
Yeah, okay.
Perfect.
So what are some manipulatives that you can use that will help children build that fluency in regards to counting and where they can practice that stable order, cardinality, order irrelevance, like principles and so on and so forth. You can use everyday tools like they use in the video, like pennies, which is totally fine too, like something that children are familiar with it already. But you can also use these like counters that they have in this like red, yellow kind of thing, or these Unifix cubes or these like fruit manipulatives, those kind of things that can be used to count as well. Number path in the classroom is a good one to use where children are physically moving on the number line to understand that like by physically moving away from 1 to this kid, for example, standing 11 and 12, help them see that I'm far away from where I started from number 1. So by physically moving away, they understand that it's a bigger number. I'm far away now. Does that make sense? So having
Yeah.
those like those are called number paths that you can have it in the classroom on the floor too. Those are really helpful too. As we talked about it before, 10 frame, 5 frame, deck of cards are all good tools to utilize in the classroom to practice counting. Number paths look like this. And also there's like, I have these like links in the notes section where it takes you to these online manipulatives websites where you can find out more. So if you want to use it in the classroom, but you don't physically have it, but you can still show them here by using these like online resources. I'm going to stop. You can.
Thank you. O sea que básicamente esos son el tipo de materiales que podemos ir utilizando, o sea que pueden ser cubos, que pueden ser las fichas amarillas y rojas, cartas, los abacos que compramos, el rec en rec, ajá, y las balanzas. ¿Qué más? Ponerles que sé que sean interesantes para los niños, pero que también, por ejemplo, algo que es muy bueno porque se mueven y pueden darse cuenta de qué número es mayor a menor. Es un camino de números en el piso. O sea, que si les pones un camino de números en el piso, pues obviamente ellos van a ver cuál es el 10, cuál es el 15, el 20, y que nos iba a enseñar Yes, yes, thanks. Go ahead, Bilge. Nos iba a enseñar materiales.
Like once they have experience with the counting, you can move on to number path, and you can even move on to number line, where they are like, and as you can see, it becomes more abstract. So number line will be appropriate for first grade. like kindergarten and up, will be appropriate where they can see the numbers and in order. And like number line could be like this again too. And I have these links in the notes. So if you want to go to this website, you can
So
see.
sorry. So number
Yeah.
line is appropriate or is not appropriate for kindergarten? I'm sorry, I wasn't sure.
It's appropriate for later, older kindergarten. It's not good for pre-K.
Okay, but for
Because
kindergarten, for 5 years old.
but they need to make sure, you need to make sure that they have the fluency. I'm gonna stop sharing. Like they have the fluency with counting physical items. They are doing the mental math counting, and then introduce the number line for them so they can, in an abstract idea, what does that look like if the order of the numbers typically from 0 to.
For the last one that you showed, right? Just the last, not
Yeah.
the number pad. The number
Yeah.
pad is appropriate, right?
Number pads is okay for pre-K because it's still concrete. They're walking on it and they can jump on it. And it's like, oh, look, my jump is like made me come like 4 more numbers. I'm like 1 number ahead of like I'm 1 number below, like, so they visually see it, they physically move on it. But when you're doing it on the screen, that's too abstract. And if they don't have those understanding, don't do the number line just yet.
Que las gráficas que vimos ahorita en la computadora, que esas más bien son como para niños de primero para arriba.
Como regletas.
Ajá. En kindergarten solamente son las del piso, como el avión, ¿no? Perfect.
Hundreds charts is something good to have in the classroom, kindergarten and up as well, where they can see the order of the numbers and also by default see the relationship between numbers. By having this hundreds chart in the classroom on a wall, this could be like a poster, it helps children see that skip counting 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, or like 1, 2, 3, the stable order, or also see they can do that skip counting like 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So they visually see what they look like and how far they're getting from 1 as they're counting. So they see that its numbers are getting bigger and bigger and bigger as they move along, getting closer to 100.
Sí.
Excellent. We have a 100 chart. ¿Es de 100 que tienes? El tablero, sí. Okay, perfect.
Okay, well, some things that you can do to if you know that your children have fluency counting up to 100, block some of these numbers and do group counting, and then see if they can say that number. For example, you block 15, 37, 48, and as they come to like 46, 47, and 48 is not written there, so because you blocked it with a tape or something, will they be able to say 48? And then say 49 without seeing it, then it will help you understand they understood the stable order, and if without seeing it, they know after 47 comes 48. So you can do those kind of activities too, where you're blocking certain numbers and then you do counting out loud and then see are they stopping when the number is blocked, or they can't figure out what's the number that they're not able to see, but they know the order, so they can figure out.
Ok. Les puedes cubrir algunos de los números. Sí, o sea, bueno, y ese tablero podría estar en el piso, realmente no creo que se pegar. Ah, lo tengo también, creo que hay que tenerlo en la mano y que hay que bloquearles nada más el número para que ellos sepan cuál es el que sigue, ¿no? Thank you, Bill Gates.
So those are some tools and the rules of counting. Let's talk about how that overall between these ages of 0 and 8, how the children's understanding of counting evolves and develops, right? So even infants like as young as like 1 are able to understand counting to some extent, because you know this too, Maite, you work with a lot of infants. so they understand the concept of more, right? So if you give them like a piece of food, they either verbally or by using the sign language, they will ask for more because then that it gives us an understanding that they understand less and more because they often want to have more of like the cookie that they're eating or more water, more juice or things like that. So, but in terms of rule of thumb, children usually are able to understand numbers as big as their own age. So even a child who's as young as 1 usually understands 1. So you can give me 1 toy, they will give you 1 toy, kind of. So you can do those like simple 1, 2, work around not 1 and 2, build that language. And you can also do a lot of finger plays or like those like rhymes, like the songs like, oh, 5 little monkeys jumping on the bed, 1 fell down and bumped his head, and 4 little jumping, those kind of things. So they, even though they're not necessarily counting, through these songs and activities, they are practicing their number counting learning.
Math is everywhere. Dando el progreso del desarrollo de los números en los niños desde que nacen hasta el primer año de edad. Entonces, entender los números comienza como una experiencia sensorial. Nos dice que los bebés reconocen los cambios en las cantidades y que responden a estímulos de más o menos desde bebecitos. O sea, ya lo están comprendiendo desde ahí, ¿no? Que, por ejemplo, se puede introducir cuando tienen 1 o 2 juguetes. O sea, pues evidentemente un niño ve que hay ambas cosas, ¿no? O sea, él no nada más ve una mamila, sino que ve que está la mamila y además un osito, ¿no? Desde recién nacidos ya se comienza a ver esta habilidad y que desde ahí se puede ir hablando, ¿no? A ver, aquí hay una mamila y aquí está un juguete, ¿no? O que también, por ejemplo, les puede uno cantar canciones, rimas, ¿no? Como hay una canción que se llama 5 pequeños changos saltan en la cama, pero esa empieza desde un changuito salta en la cama. Es como la del elefante. Un elefante se columpiaba sobre la tela. Yes, thank you. I was just saying.
Yeah, I like it.
Spanish.
So the between 1 and 3, we still see their understanding of counting, but really, really small sets of numbers. Again, up to 3, maybe they're able to count because maybe you have this conversation with your own kids too, like, oh, I'm not like 2, I'm 3, I'm gonna be 4 soon. So they understand the order that 3 is less than 4 or 2 is less than 3. Like they're excited about turning older and they know that it's associated with a number and that number, the next number is always bigger. Like I'm not a child anymore, I'm gonna be 4 soon. They are more they understand it means something bigger. And this is the time that we can start working on that one-to-one correspondence, like where we are building that eye-hand coordination and like matching one number with one item. So they can practice that, one of the principles of counting one-to-one. And some manipulatives that we can use with the younger kids, it could be symbol puzzles with numbers. You see those like there's a number and there's a quantity that you connect. Blocks where they're like connecting Unifix cube blocks to one another. Or again, continuing with the songs are usually really helpful, counting songs even with this age too.
So language is very important, right?
They need to keep hearing, especially with counting, they need to hear it because it's so abstract. They need to have that practice.
That's what I'm seeing. Bueno, nos está explicando que cómo progresa el desarrollo de las matemáticas en los niños del primer año a los 3 años. Entonces dice que comencemos a utilizar números y palabras cuando los veamos que tienen los sujetos, ¿no? O sea, por ejemplo, aunque no sea correcto, pero que les expliquemos, ¿no? A ver, aquí está un objeto, es 2 y 3, y lo revisemos como juntos, ¿no? ¿Cuántos ves tú ahí? Aunque esté mal. Tratar de practicar.
Por ejemplo, el comparar cantidades. Tengo una pelota y aquí tengo 2 zapatos No, así no, un cuarto mayor. Una o dos. Y empezarle a llevar el conteo. Sería
So
muy...
Candy is wondering if this is correct or not. She's like, if it's too advanced to show, for example, to start the counting, if, for example, you show them a ball and then, ¿cómo era?
Comparar. Es como comparación de cantidades. Por ejemplo, yo tengo, cuando ya empezamos con los conteos de 1, 2, 3. En este tengo, vamos a tomar fichas, ¿no? Aquí tengo una ficha y aquí tengo dos fichas. Y empieza, ahí pueden ellos relacionar y empezar a comprender el número. Por ejemplo,
Pero-
uno es menor o el 2.
En los niños de 1 a 3 años con bicha.
Ajá.
So she's wondering if it's too soon to start using like tokens at that age and asking them, for example, which one has more? Like, for example, one token here in this side, and here there are two. Which side has more?
I wouldn't go beyond 3 with like this age group. Like stick with their age. So if it's like the oldest is 3, focus on up to 3 when you're doing comparison between the numbers and more or less. So I will say when it comes to counting, maybe focus on counting up to their age with the toddlers, older toddlers, and I wouldn't do anything beyond that. Just focus on that one-to-one. I will do comparisons with pre-K and up. I'll do comparisons in terms of, because then they have enough experience with counting different collections. So because comparison is more complex than understanding the number order and counting, right? It's related to number sense. And I wouldn't start doing that more or less comparison before pre-K.
Ok. Dice que comparar es un proceso más complejo y que te sugiere que no lo empieces en preescolar, porque comprender qué tiene más que menos es complejo. O sea, que te esperes hasta... So you say comparison goes until, you say pre-K?
I would say start in pre-K. This is still like young toddlers, the one that we're talking
Yes,
about right
exactly.
now. Yeah.
Sí.
But I will do it pre-K and up.
Yeah, okay. Es que la edad que nos estaba enseñando. Perfect. So I'm just going to go back to talking. Lo que pasa es que la edad que ahorita nos está explicando es de 1 a 3 años. Ellos todavía son bebés. O sea, la comparación ya la puedes comenzar hasta como cuando empieza la escuela. O sea, lo que es en México el preescolar es como hasta los 3 años de edad. Sí, ya a los 3. Pero que a esa edad todavía no. Entonces aquí nada más es, por ejemplo, manejar simples rompecabezas que tengan numeritos, acomodar bloques y contar canciones que hablen de los números y que tengan imágenes visuales, ¿no? Entre el 1 y 3 años de edad, ¿sí? Y que empiezan como a agarrar el concepto de que 1 corresponde a un objeto, 2 corresponde a 2 objetos, ¿no? El concepto que nos explicó al principio de la correspondencia de 1 a 1. O sea, ese sería como lo más relevante, ¿no? Gracias, thank you.
So preschoolers like 3 and up, like between 3 and 5, they can count objects up to 10 and begin to understand cardinality, meaning that the last number represents the overall. These are when it comes to counting, focusing on numbers up to 10 and focus on cardinality is the key things with preschoolers to make sure that they get those ideas like stable order up to 10 and knowing that the last number represents the overall quantity. And you can do simple addition and subtraction by using concrete materials by just talking about it. There's no like 3 plus 3 equals 6. It's more like, oh, you have 3 coins. If I give you 3 more coins, how many coins would you have all together? And then they're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 coins. You know, that's what simple addition. Or if you have 6 coins, if I take 3 away, how many coins do you have left? And they can count 1, 2, 3. I have 3 coins left. So you're having it like conversational approach to addition and subtraction by manipulating the collection of things up to 10 by either taking away or adding to a collection to make it 10 and ask them, like, how many now do you have?
Ok. A esta edad, este es lo que se llama preescolar, de los 3 a 5 años de edad. El kindergarten es corto, el kindergarten en todos debería de ser como entre los 5 y 6 años, ya cerca de la primaria. Entre el preescolar, lo que ella dice es que podemos contar objetos hasta el 10 y comenzar comprendiendo la cardinalidad. ¿Recuerdas que era comprender que el último número es el total, ¿no? Que son 10 o 5, ¿no? Y que ese número es el que representa la cantidad total. Y que comencemos agregando o restando a los objetos, o sea, visualmente, ¿no? Para que los niños lo puedan comprender, ¿no? Es como adiciones y restas muy simples de objetos en concreto, ¿no? Aquí hay 2, 3, 4, 5, pues le quitamos, ¿no? Y que utilicen manipulativos apropiados para hacer distintos sets como los cubos, figuras de animales y las cartas que puedan ir identificando los números. Yes.
Okay.
Let
So,
me know what time you have today, because I know you have to leave in 15 minutes, or I don't know how long.
yeah, I need to stop at 2:30. I was just looking at how many slides that we have, but I think we can cover the majority of at least the developmental progression until, like, will that work for you?
Yes, of course, and please, we
Okay.
can come back whenever you have another availability, Vilge. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. So
Okay.
maybe after we review the developmental progression for kindergarten and then first two grades, we can talk about assessing the students too, and then maybe we'll stop there and then we continue next time.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And let me know what next time will be. I think we
Yes.
don't have anything scheduled.
No,
Okay.
we would love to. We would love to meet with you.
Yeah. So kindergarten, now like with pre-K, we said up to 10 and work with that. In kindergarten, you can focus on up to 20, help them build fluency up to 20, counting on and counting down from 20, counting up to 20, right? So they can understand what are the numbers between 1 and 20. And if I say a number, what comes after 15? At the end of the kindergarten, they should be able to say 16 without counting from 1 to 15 and say 16. So that's why we focus on really small numbers, like 20 for kindergarten, but want to make sure that they have the fluency of that number line, that between 1 and 20, they know what numbers are in between and they can count on or count down from a given number.
We lost you like for 1 minute. Sorry.
Oh, okay. No worries. Like you disappeared. Okay, I'll go back again. So I was saying with kindergarten, focusing on up to number 20 and counting on or down within the number 20, up to 20. So our goal should be in kindergarten. At the end of the kindergarten, if I say kids, what comes after 15? Without a hesitation, they should say 16. That's the goal, right? If they have the fluency. So that's why it's important that throughout the kindergarten year, we do activities where children are learning about counting rules up to 20, but they also practicing counting on or counting down within 20, meaning that if you count on from 15, what would that look like? 15, 16, 17, 8. Or can you count down from 10, 9, 8? So they should have that fluency and flexibility for any given number within this 1 to 20. They can count backwards, forward, regardless of whatever number. They don't go back to 1 to figure out what comes next.
Okay, so you don't go to 40s or 60s, no.
You will go to 40s, 60s, but in terms of just row counting. The
Okay,
goal with the kindergarten, in terms of like just memorization, is 100, but conceptually understanding is really 20, within 20, that they understand the
I
order
see.
of numbers, that they can mentally count down or count on within 20. But
Which is very different. So what you're saying is really understanding the number.
yeah, they understand, they can see the numbers lined up 1 to 20. When I say 15, what comes next, they say 16 immediately. But when it comes to 100, they should be able to count up to 100, but they can do it like this: 20, 21, 22, 23, 40, 41. That's okay. I'm not going to give them 45 and say what comes next, but I will. It's okay. They don't conceptually understand that yet, but they really need to master conceptually
But
within 20.
do you would you like them? I mean, is that something good to do? The skip counting like from 20 to 100, like how many
Yeah,
times? Yeah, that's okay.
that's okay. Yeah.
That's okay. Like how many
Mhm.
times you need to make 100? How many times 20 you need to make 100? Is that okay?
No, don't do that yet. That's more like
Not yet.
abstract. Yeah, yeah, that's more like
Okay. So
multiplication.
if I understood correct, so what you're saying is basically
Row counting.
understanding 20,
Yeah.
understanding. But then if you want to move further 20, it's just for memory, not really understanding the concept
And
of
for
20.
kindergarten, that will be okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, lo que dice es que básicamente en kindergarten, de 5 a 6 años, los niños tienen que comprender lo que es el número 20, o sea, que puedan contar comprendiendo que 6 más 4 son 10, 10 más 5 son 15, 15 más 3 son 18, 18 más 2 son 20, y que tienen que reconocer bien esto. O sea, que nada más hasta el 20. O sea, sí te pueden decir de memoria del 20 al 100, pero que lo que importa es que comprendan realmente los 20 números primeros, ¿me explico? O sea, que esos sean sus base de conocimiento, o sea, que sepan lo que significan esos números. Ok, thanks so much.
Welcome. And come first grade and second grade, that's where we are going to work with conceptually try to understand numbers within 100 and see there are 10 tens in 100, for example, or there are 25s in 100 because they're going to be skip counting up to by 5 up to 100 or skip counting by 10 up to 100. So they will understand the relationship between numbers and groups within a larger group. And first grade and second grade is appropriate for that. And that's where we also start talking about place value when we're counting that there are ones and tens and hundreds. Like when you're decomposing a number of like 100 or 125, there are 5 ones, 2 20s, 2 10s, and 1 100 kind of. So when we're using manipulatives, we use like base 10 blocks. Do you remember those singles and like sticks towers of 10? And there was like a square of like 100. So those are kind of manipulatives that we initially use. And as they built with those concrete materials, their understanding of skip counting, then they do them mentally too. And then they see like how many times something is repeating, which is the early understanding of, again, the multiplication and division and grouping.
Thank you. O sea, que aquí ya en los grados de primero a segundo, de 6 a 8 años de edad, los niños van a contar hasta el 100, como lo hacían en preescolar, porque verdaderamente ellos ya pueden saben que 10 veces 10 hace 100, que 25 4 veces hace 100, o sea que las combinaciones las hacemos más variadas, que se hace el salto de los números.
Cantidades más grandes.
Exacto, que se resuelven problemas envolviendo sumas, restas y el principio de la multiplicación.
Yeah.
utilicen apropiados manipulativos. Ajá.
So
Yes.
for this grade level, like for these age groups, they should be able to say at the end of the first grade, what comes after 78, they should be able to say 79. But for kindergarten, that was up to 20. Now up to 100, they should have that fluency that they can just say, they don't have to count
Ok.
anymore.
Y ya deben de saber, por ejemplo, que después del 77 sigue el 78, ¿no? Así como en kinder es hasta el 20, aquí es hasta el 100. Entonces hay que practicar todas las combinaciones. Ajá, perfecto. Yes, y que el chico 100. Yes.
So how can we assess our students understanding of counting and numbers? One strategy to use is the verbal counting, where we're encouraging them to count out loud. We give them collection, and then they say, you can say that, can you count, what is the highest number that you can count up to? And let them count, like 1, 2, where do they stop? And that gives you an understanding of what is their fluency is, like rote memorization of numbers up to what number. And it's a good one to understand what is their prior knowledge and what is its grade level appropriate, or whether some areas that they need to develop more. So if I'm asking a first grade, for example, you're interviewing the students, you're trying to understand what grade level will work with them. Tell them to count to the highest number that you know. And if a second grade student and they can only count up to 20, that child is at the kindergarten level.
Oh, wow.
Does that make sense? So that's a good assessment. Just count up the highest number, and then you'll understand what the grade level their math understanding is.
Wow. Que básicamente tú, si quieres saber en qué grado está el niño, que le preguntes, bueno, no nada más el grado. Si quieres saber más o menos qué tanto comprende el niño, que le preguntes, que te cuente en voz alta. Eso es súper importante. Que hasta donde llegue te puedes dar cuenta qué es lo que le falta trabajar, pero que también te sirve para saber su conocimiento previo y el grado en el que está, que si es un niño que no puede contar en más de 10, entonces está en kindergarten. O sea que no lo puedes meter todavía a... Okay, so if the child counts until 20, then he can start elementary school. I mean, he's in elementary school level, right?
Yeah, so if this is for second grade age level, but they cannot go beyond that, then it gives you an understanding that their math counting at the moment is at the kindergarten level. So
Right.
that means that gives you an idea they can start second grade, but that gives you an idea that they will need additional support in math when it comes to counting. They didn't come with the prior knowledge needed for that grade level.
Okay. Do you need to leave right now? Because it's 2:25.
Okay. Yeah, we can stop here if that's okay with you too.
Of course, it was wonderful. I like it. Well, we
Okay,
love it.
I'll stop recording too. Hold on.